welcome to another episode of Dress and Drinks, a program from Costume Society of America as part of our webinar series, Conversations on Dress. I'm Kristen Miller Zohn, the organization's executive director, filling in for our regular host, Leon Weavers. If you're enjoying these conversations and want to stay in the loop, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and like this video so you don't miss future programs exploring the rich world of dress and culture. And should you have any questions about CSA's digital content, please contact Conversations on Dress at CostumeSocietyAmerica.com. Our Conversations on Dress editor, Sarah West Hickson, has curated our drinks for the evening, and I am drinking the non-alcoholic version of the Captain's Orders. I am pleased to introduce tonight's guest speakers from the Flight Path Museum LAX in Los Angeles, Uniform Curator Doris D'Arre and President Jean-Christophe Dick. Doris and JC, welcome. It's great to see you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
I'll start.
Yeah.
I had a career as an electrical engineer and a programmer for 35 years. After I retired, I came to check out the Flight Path Museum because I've always been interested in aviation and grew up traveling. And that's when I became a volunteer and didn't really know I was so interested in fashion until I met the past curator of the museum, who started to tell me all about 600 plus uniforms in the museum and the histories behind them. And I just found myself fascinated by all of this. And when she was ready to start letting go, she asked me if I would take over for her. So here I am.
How many years ago was that?
Oh, I started training under her about a year ago, and I've been on my own since pretty much November, I believe.
Okay, so pretty recently.
It's very recent, yes. I have just learned a little bit.
But you've been with the museum for much longer than that.
Well, I've been with the museum for 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
3 years. Yeah.
So, my name is Jean-Christophe Dick. I am the president and the airport historian for the museum. My museum journey started almost 8-9 years ago. I was asked by the then president to give a talk on aviation photography. I'm also a photographer. And so I did that. And then she asked me, hey, would you like to join our board? I asked, how much work is that? No, not too much. That was the biggest lie I've heard. And so now I'm the president and lifting a lot with a great team of people that support everything that we do. So it's a true pleasure because we love aviation. We love that smell of jet fuel, and we're right on the tarmac. And if you see our heads turn, that's because planes are literally rolling by. For those of the angels that were here, you know the scene.
Yes, the CSA Angels Project happened when we were there for a symposium in June, and we got to see your fantastic building and wonderful collection and the gorgeous setting that you're in.
So just an introduction to the museum. We talked a little bit about it, but we have been here for almost about 20 years. The purpose of the museum is to preserve and educate about the history of aviation and aerospace in Southern California, with a particular focus on commercial aviation. If you go to a lot of museums around the country, usually it's going to be about military aviation or something very specific. We really focus on commercial aviation because we're at an airport and we want to sort of like show how we all got to this point of all these planes taking off and enjoying the flight. We have education programs for future aviators and future aviation leaders. So if you want to become a pilot, we have these flight simulators. We have also other scholarships that we offer for kids that are looking to go into the aviation field. And we're all volunteers. So we're just 2 out of the probably 25 people that make up the organization.
I didn't realize you were volunteers. How fantastic.
There's a picture of the museum from the outside, and just a little word of the red and white stripes. That's called International Orange and White. That's the same striping that you'll see on buildings at airports, so that pilots can see that there's a building and to try to avoid them as much as possible. So, and here we are at the main gallery that we have. This building used to be an airport terminal for MGM Grand Air, before that charter air carriers. And it was the most luxurious way to fly back in the late 80s, early 90s, with a flight direct from here to New York. It was just one step below flying private. I think it was more for people that could fly private but wanted a social atmosphere to rub elbows with others in that sphere. And today, we serve a little bit of a different clientele, I think better. People that love aviation, and they come and see everything, including the uniforms. And Doris talked a little bit about the past curators. Ethel Pattison started off as an airport flight attendant, as a United flight attendant called stewardess back in the day in the 50s. And if you got married, you were no longer a flight attendant, and that's what happened. So she became an airport guide. She was the first airport guide, which were people that showed off LA's new airport to the population. She also helped raise money for by helping promote bonds to the public to build the new airport. She was a founding member of this museum, and including founding the start of the uniform collection. And we have her uniform here.
Those are fantastic pictures of her.
Kristen mentioned that they were here for the Angels Project, and so we were the lucky recipients of this year's Angel Project. With our collection of over 600 uniforms, it was kept on hangers and crammed on racks. And the racks were in any available storage space in the museum. So it was not an ideal way to keep this large collection. So we were lucky to have a flock of angels come to teach us how to take care of our uniforms and how to store them properly. So these pictures were taken the day of the Angel Project. These are the first two steps, where each item was first vacuumed and that then was photographed individually. Then we go on to, they identified the pieces. We had written descriptions, make sure you got the right piece, and create an ID label. And then each of these labels was sewn into the item. Then the last two steps, each item was cataloged into Excel. In past projects, they created the catalog on paper. So this year we joined the 21st century and went paperless. And then the last step is everything was wrapped in acid-free tissue paper and then stored in acid-free cardboard boxes. So here is our flock of angels. Seems like a lot of people, but it was a really big job, but it was a great team effort. These people worked together so well, and we got a lot done. Let's see, I think we processed almost 300 items individually, which amounted to almost 100 full uniforms.
Fantastic.
So let's go back to the beginning. Until 1930, there were no female stewardesses. I read that the co-pilot would pass out sandwiches to the few passengers because planes were small. So the first airline uniform was issued on May 15 of 1930, and it was a classic suit of green wool. And it was designed by Steve Stimson and Ellen Church. Mr. Stimson was the San Francisco District Traffic Manager for Boeing Air Transport. And Miss Church was a registered nurse, and she was the first of the original 8 nurses hired by Steve to be trained as stewardesses. So if you look at the picture on the left, Ellen Church is the one by the door on the left. And the uniform you see on the right is a replica of the original uniforms. And replicas were made by Western Costume in Hollywood in 1955 for the 25th anniversary celebration of stewardess service.
It demonstrates really well how everybody's kind of styled their cape differently for the picture.
Yes, and the cape, the original cape had a tan lining, and our cape does not have that.
I just wanted to add that you see United Airlines written above, and Doris said Boeing. Boeing Air Transport became United Airlines. So the same United Airlines that we have today, that's the first uniform. Not the same uniform, but the first company with the uniform.
But it wasn't just Boeing. There were 3 or 4 other airlines there.
Yeah, so there was United was like the United States. It was a merger of multiple different airlines. So they were all together united in that same sense that they were uniting different carriers together. Boeing was manufacturing aircraft, manufacturing engines, and manufacturing and flying the people in their own airlines. And the U.S. government said that's a trust. It had to be broken up. So they're broken up into United Airlines, Boeing aircraft, and Pratt & Whitney engines, which still all exist today.
So after the original uniform, we had a lot more suits. They were sort of military looking. And then when we got to the 1940s, flying became more of a glamorous event. Stewardess uniforms were designed by famous designers, and passengers used to dress up to go on a trip. So let's see, it was 1939, Howard Hughes got controlling interest of TWA. And he was a film producer at the time, so he brought with him some of the Hollywood glamour. The first notable uniform here is affectionately known as the cutout uniform, was designed by Howard Greer, who was a Hollywood designer. So it's known the cutout uniform because of the letters cut out on the right shoulder. And this design was implemented because the rules of the time didn't allow stewardesses to smoke, chew gum, or drink alcoholic beverages while they were wearing the uniform and representing the company. So with a quick change, they would remove their hat, unbutton the button at the top of the right shoulder, and that flap would come down, cover the TWA. Their hat with the insignia would be gone. So now they're wearing an elegant suit. So if they go have a drink or smoke a cigarette, they are not representing TWA in their activities.
Form follows function.
Yes. So TWA followed in the tradition of getting famous designers to do their uniforms. So the cutout uniform was worn from 1944 until 55. In 1955, the new uniform was released, and it was designed by Oleg Cassini. And at this time, they started having different uniforms for winter and summer. So here, the brown wool on the left was chosen to coordinate with the interior of the Super G constellation, which was the plane of the time. And then the summer version was made of a lightweight green wool, and both of these are shown. These are in our collection and are shown on our mannequins, and you can see pieces of the museum in the background of some of these photos. Then we get 1960. Raymond Loewy and Associates was tagged to do the next set of uniforms. Raymond Loewy himself was an industrial designer, and he owned the largest design company of the time. Personally, he designed building interiors, cars, home appliances, a lot of logos, including the TWA logo, but he had a large company with lots of associates. So I haven't found any indication that he was a fashion designer himself, but I'm sure some of his associates were. So these two uniforms came into being, again, coordinating with the interior of the airplanes. So here in, let's see, 1965, TWA was the first airline to engage an international designer. So Pierre Balmain designed these two uniforms. Again, this time we have the summer uniform on the left with the winter uniform on the right. And this time we're getting into the jet age, and the airplane of the time was the Starstream Boeing 707, and TWA had these colors on their interiors. So again, the uniforms were designed to coordinate with that. The hats here, I think it was the same hat worn on both uniforms, and it took more of a pillbox design. And the large buttons were very mod for the time, I believe. And TWA always had their logo embroidered on the uniforms. Like here they have it small on the collar of each blouse. And in previous years, they had a bigger insignia embroidered on their uniforms, on their outside coats. And one more thing, when they started, this goes back to the cutout uniform. They had something called a blouse slip, and it was spelled BLOUS-slip. It was the blouse attached to a slip. So it would keep the blouse from untucking from your skirt and keep you nicely put out, looking for your whole flight. It was two pieces that were attached. So the blouse was made of cotton or another nicer fabric, and the slip part was made of nylon, regular slip material.
I would love to see the dinnerware because they're having fantastic airplane food at this point. It's the glamorous era, and I bet there were turquoise dishes and glasses to go along with these uniforms.
Well, we can do another presentation sometime with all dishes because we do have a fair amount of them around, and I'll have to look for the ones you mentioned.
White dishes with red, like a red stripe, and some like fancy gold lettering, I think was what they were going for, some kind of regal kind of setup.
Right.
So in 1968, these paper dresses were designed for a special promotion on flights from between California and New York and California and Chicago. They were designed by Eliza Daggs, who I've learned has designed a lot of other paper dresses. As a matter of fact, I learned that the gold dress and the pantsuit, the jumpsuit on the left of the gold, are both in the collection of the Costume Institute at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, along with other Eliza Daggs designs. So these were worn not for very long for a special promotion. They were made of a flame-proof paper, which was a good thing to do. And they were made in one size, and they were all wraparound and had Velcro fastenings, so people could adjust them to their own figure. And the stewardesses were also allowed to cut them to the length that they needed them to be or wanted them to be.
What about the blouse on the right? Is that a paper blouse, or is that a blouse you wore under a paper?
It's attached. Everything is paper. The sleeves and the collar are attached to the gray part. Everything is paper.
Fantastic. Now, is it common for you to find images of the actual objects in your collection in either advertisements or photographs of the people who donated them wearing them?
I was lucky to find some of them. So where I found them, I incorporated the ads. There are two other curators who handle the other back room, and they have a lot of paper items in there. And I will have to get together with them and find out if there are more ads that show uniforms.
Right, cross-reference.
Let's see. Oh, yes. Go ahead.
I was thinking also the SFO Museum, which is another aviation museum that's San Francisco airport. They made a book, which is an absolutely fantastic book on airline uniforms. Unfortunately, they can't sell it because it's a city agency, but there are ways to get it. It's in our library, so if anybody's in LA, come see us. We can put you in touch with the book. And sorry, but they went through a meticulous process of photographing a lot of uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're very good about that.
Excellent.
So one more thing about the paper uniforms. Another one of our volunteers is a retired TWA stewardess. And when I asked about these, she said, she didn't like wearing them. The paper apparently was not very sturdy. And she says with perspiration, it would start disintegrating during flight. So she had to make sure to wear the same color underwear as the dress that she had to wear in case when rips started showing up, she could, hold on for a little bit, but then she always had to carry a spare too, because she would often have to change her paper uniform in mid-flight.
I mean, I feel like it would be wearing, especially with how short some of them were, it could be kind of like wearing a dentist bib around you and trying to feel completely covered in it in the air while you're trying to serve.
Right. I can't see any of those being comfortable. Maybe the jumpsuit. And the gold uniform, she said, if you bend at the waist, the back end flips up. So.
No. And we saw that. I saw that one when I was there and saw how thin. I mean, it's paper, but it's not thick paper. It's not craft paper. It's very, very thin. And it was almost, because it was that gold lame, it was almost like gold leaf. It was so thin.
Yeah, it was thin, but it's a little stiffer than the others, so it would just flip up instead of bending.
Were there any male attendants or any of the men wearing the paper, or were they just female uniform on the paper?
To my knowledge, it was just the females. I don't think we had. There were not that many stewards at the time.
There
either.
were no male flight attendants until 1971, I believe.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was very much a segregated profession.
Right.
And if you look, and just a little bit to expand on this point, women only were started to be allowed to be pilots starting in the 70s. The first U.S.-based airline pilot at a major carrier was for Frontier Airlines, which is not even a major carrier. I mean, you go back to, it started more in Europe in the, I think it was the 50s or the 60s. When SAS had their pilot, first female pilot as well, and that was because she was the daughter of the CEO, and so that kind of helped with that as well. But it's been a long trek. But if you were a child flying in the 60s and 70s, and you got the little pin, if you were a boy, you got future pilot. If you were a girl, you got future flight attendant.
Yep.
So that's how things have changed now. It's just pilot wings, and everybody gets them, thankfully. But there still needs to be more work that needs to be done to get more women into the cockpit, because it's only about 5 to 6% of the commercial aviation pilot corps that is female.
Oh, I've heard that in France it's 10%. We had the lady pilot.
10%.
Yeah, so I'm French, so I can say, yay, vive la France. Still low, though, but an advance.
Very low. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Gracious. More work to do.
Yes. Okay, let's move on. Until this, this was for the winter of 1968. Until 1968, the uniforms were truly uniform. Every stewardess was supposed to wear the same uniform in the same way. And one thing I forgot to mention, some of these are wearing white gloves, which in past years, they all wore white gloves. Starting in the 40s and the 50s, they all had their white gloves. So by 1968, they were ready for a change. And TWA this time did not go to a specific designer, but they went to Dalton of America, which was an American cashmere maker. Mm-hmm. And in the late 50s, they started producing double knits in wool and synthetic fibers. So TWA went to Dalton and asked them to design new uniforms. So these uniforms are all double knit. And so the new design had these three colors, and they called them poppy, avocado, and gold. And you see them all in the ad. And we have a couple here in the museum, so that's what you see on the right. Also, on the left, you can see that, so they had three colored suits to choose from. And the top part of the dress was the stripes of the three colors. And they also had berets, and the one at the left of the picture has a scarf. So we have a beret and a scarf, but they're currently on loan and being shown at LAX. So what we still have here, so we have our avocado uniform, and let's see, they call this coat a cape coat. And it's a nice heavy coat for the winter. It has a fuzzy orange lining, but it can be converted into a cape by unzipping the lining and turn the sleeves in, and then you have your cape. Which yeah, it's an interesting design and a very warm coat.
I know I'm dating myself, but this absolutely looks like fruit striped gum. I think it's from the same era.
I just want to say one thing on this. Doris talked about this uniform and other uniforms being on display at LAX. Should you go to LAX and you're at American Airlines Terminal 4, you can go to, there's a little corridor that goes to Tom Bradley, and you'll see 6 of our uniforms on display there. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very nice display. Unfortunately, it's in a well-lit area, which, after learning from the angels that you do not want your clothing in bright light, I kind of shudder to think about that, but it also made it impossible to get good photographs when I was there. So we'll have to get somebody with some special equipment to go there and take some good photographs because the displays were very nicely done. Okay. So that same year, there was a summer uniform, which still had choices, but the only thing that could change was the color of the jacket. The skirt was the same with the window pane design and with a white blouse and the same tie. The other thing that was different, as you can't see here, but each uniform has a very thin patent leather belt. One is in lime green and one is in royal blue. And the all-weather coat that you see here was also lined in the same pattern as the skirt.
Did that come in green as well, or just in the blue?
It did not. It just, well, I have not found any documentation that tells me it came in green. Okay. And we only have the blue one. Okay, so then when we get into the 70s, Valentino was tapped to design the next uniforms. They came in the plum color that you see here, a beige and a brown. The plum is very nice. The beige and brown are they're elegant, but I wonder why they didn't do a brighter colors. But they were not.
Do you know if they're still, I'm sorry, Doris, do you know if they're still following the interiors of the airplanes, or have they started to diverge from matching the interiors?
Here, I would think they diverged. I didn't have any information that said that they were still coordinating the uniforms to the plane interiors.
Okay.
But the Valentino uniform, they were not supposed to mix colors, but they had different items that they could mix. So there was a pantsuit, and there was a dress suit, and there was a safari dress, and the hot pants.
And did boots come also, or did you have to supply your own boots?
That was part of the uniform too, for the hot pants.
Ooh.
So what you see here on the left, we have the pants, and it's the top part is more of a tunic. So again, a retired flight attendant said when she was pregnant, she wore that tunic as maternity clothes, and because she flew for a few months. And here on the right, you see the hot pants worn with the safari dress. And
a scarf, maybe.
The scarf. There were scarves in plum and beige and in brown and beige. And unfortunately, when we had the plum uniform on display, we couldn't find the scarf. We thought the scarf was gone. But later, when I was getting organized for the Angel Project, I found the scarf. And that's the pattern that was on both the plum and the brown scarf.
So do you know what year it changed to allow married or pregnant attendants to work?
I think 1971 was a big year.
Yeah, I think so. I think it has to do with the cultural changes as well, and sort of like the sexual revolution and changes that were afoot. So it was part of the general context of what was going on in the Western world at that time. I couldn't say specifically. I don't know if it was a global, if it was a legislation change or if the airlines did it by themselves. But it's something that I should look into because it is very interesting.
Well, I know in the U.S. the unions fought for a lot of things, and in 1971 is when male stewards were hired. And so with that, because there weren't very many male stewards, when they got to their location, the male stewards got their own hotel room. So the stewardesses used to have to share a room. So now the male stewards have their own room, so stewardesses started getting their own hotel rooms too. Yes, and I think at that time is when they were allowed to be married too. They didn't have to quit when they were married. I've heard that the average working time of a stewardess in the 50s, 60s was 2 years.
Okay.
Because, yeah, they'd get married and that was it.
And certain versions of those practices still exist in other countries where you do have a little bit have a different level of sort of an age limit and requirements of physique.
Right. Right.
Yes, my own mother was a victim of the having to quit when she got married. So she flew in 1955 and 56 and then had to go home. Let's see, one more. Oh, the Valentino uniforms. All those nice gold buttons have a V on them.
It's interesting that TWA let him brand it so much about him as opposed to about them. That's very interesting. But I guess if you have Valentino, you wanna make everybody know. Well,
what I've heard from the ladies here is that TWA was very proud of their designer uniforms too. From what I've seen, no other U.S. airline had as many designers. Of course, the European ones will, but airlines from the U.S., TWA had pretty much every one of their uniforms designed by a famous person.
Yeah. You could do a whole one on Air France by itself, but that's not a thing.
Well, maybe next year.
So, and on uniforms like this, the Valentino uniforms, was the TWA logo still incorporated somewhere, or just Valentino?
It is not. It is not. It's just Valentino.
Okay.
Right. I mean, they would wear a name badge.
Usually. That's right. We don't have very many of the name badges and no TWA badges. But I think it was back when I showed, probably with Balmain was the last uniform that actually had the TWA logo embroidered on the uniform.
Okay.
So then we get to a little bit later, 1970s. Stan Herman was also a famous uniform designer. He designed uniforms for lots of companies. Apparently, the first one to ask him was Avis Rental Car Company. And since after that, he also designed for companies such as Amtrak, Federal Express, JetBlue, Lowe's Hotels, McDonald's, TWA, US Airways, and United Airlines. But he also did other things outside of uniforms. Let's see, I have here that he was president of the Council of Fashion Designers of America until 2006, and that's when Diane von Furstenberg took over that position. So his design for TWA went a lot bolder with the colors. Remember I said I wondered why Valentino didn't do bright colors. Well, right. That was probably not his thing, but Stan Herman went with bright colors and had 3 different ones so that stewardesses could pick their own, express their individuality. So again, here I found an ad that shows the male flight attendants at this time, they could have tan or brown pants. And the stewardesses, by this time they're flight attendants. That came in with the 1971 deals too. There were 2 pairs of pants that they could choose from. The one on the left, it just, of course, on the picture looks beige, but it's a pinstriped. It has very thin red and blue pinstripes, the colors of the other 2 uniforms. And they also had blue pants to choose from, but I don't have any to show here. So here on the right, I show what we had on display for a little while. They had mock turtleneck sweaters of each of the colors. And they also had a beige or white blouse. And by this point, they were all wearing the bodysuits, which a lot of them didn't like. They're not comfortable, but they, again, keep your blouse tucked in nicely. Oh, one other thing you see, let's see, the colors were called, they had gold and royal blue and TWA red. If you see on the left, the TWA logo is the same red as the jacket. Here on the right, we have the red carpet on the museum. And you see that the uniform, the TWA red, is not the same red as our red carpet. It's a little bit orangey.
Orange. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I also read that back in the days when the TWA logo was embroidered on the uniforms, it was always in this TWA red. Yeah. And the stewardesses back then were required to wear the same color lipstick and nail polish.
Just the building that you have in the background of those five cabin crew, that is Terminal 5 at JFK. It is a historic landmark. It was designed by Eero Saarinen, one of two airports that he designed, the other one being Dulles. And you can actually stay at that hotel at JFK, and I strongly recommend that you do, because they do have a uniform display there, and they try to make it feel that 50s, 60s feel when you go in there. They have a super constellation, which Doris talked about previously. You can actually go and have a drink in that super constellation, dress up as if you were flying back in the day, go on the plane, and have a flight in your head as you fly, as you actually sit right next to the airport. And they have a swimming pool on top that overlooks the airplanes. So for us, that's just great.
Perfect.
So I recommend
That's
that
such a
experience.
soaring space. You feel like you're flying when you're inside that space. It's amazing.
Right. And I could say I will borrow one of the uniforms from our collection and go have a drink inside the Constellation. But if Margaret is listening, she
Yeah,
will not.
Margaret Ordonez will not let you do that.
No, I learned from her that you do not do that.
We can edit that out of the video, right?
You can have a replica made and have it done. That would be fine.
Which, by the way, the TWA Museum in Kansas City, they sell excess uniforms. So if you're
Oh,
ever in
really?
Kansas City, they had I bought one of the flap ones.
Oh, the cutout.
The cutout one, yeah. With that, and there was somebody else from Boeing. She absolutely fell in love with the one, the multiple stripes, the gold, red, and green, and she wore it to parties. She bought it for herself, so she's not a part of a museum, but she absolutely loved it. But
Love
you
it.
can if you see it there.
Love it.
They don't have the paper dresses though.
Oh, and before you leave there, there's a scarf that went with all of them. You can see it a little bit better in the picture on the right. It incorporates the three colors from the three lady uniforms. Oh, and their hats, did not have a chance to look for what those hats were called. They look to me almost like a safari hat.
What is the material? Is it canvas or is it straw?
It's canvas.
Okay.
With, I don't know if it's a leather strap or plastic. We do have one of them here. So the last uniform that TWA had was designed by Ralph Lauren. And he took the uniform back to a uniform look, no color change choices, and the clean cut style, mirroring almost back to the first uniforms. And it was navy wool, which you see here for the winter, and it was a lighter weight gray blue wool for the spring and summer. The flight attendants still had choices in the neckwear. Let's see, they could choose between an ascot, a narrow tie, like a male tie, or the square scarf that we show here. And they could choose between pants and a skirt. And male stewards flight attendants had the same color scheme too, and their ties were the same colors. But I found out the uniform was supposed to be very functional because it had an expandable waistband and a gusset and bi-wing jacket back. Not being a seamstress myself, I'm not quite sure what they are, but I take it to mean that the back of the jacket probably has pleats that will expand and let you move better.
Right. Yeah. So you can help people put their luggage in the overhead compartment, right, and do all of those kinds of things that you need to do. I'll have to say this is very classy and very classic looking, but kind of boring after the ones that we've been looking at this whole time.
I know when you see it in person here, it is very classy looking, but the picture doesn't really, no pizzazz there.
Yeah. But this does have pizzazz. This is my favoriteest thing in your collection.
Well, I should back up a little bit. So that was the last TWA designed uniform, and they wore until 2000. In 2001, American Airlines took over TWA. And from then on, it has been the boring blue uniforms that almost, I think, every airline has now. Maybe not the European ones, but in the US, blue has taken over.
Yeah, but I have a feeling that every time there's an airline that changes uniforms, there's always some kind of controversy about the fit, the material, that some people are allergic to it, so there's the reversions to the previous versions. It's you hear maybe you hear about more in the news than you have before, just because everything's news today. But it's very interesting, at least for a person that's not in the industry to see that happen.
Right.
Well, United Airlines is going through a big controversy now. They've had the same uniform for many years, and this year they released a new uniform and apparently had a lot of problems with it. And people, none of them fit right. There was no mobility in the arms. So I think temporarily they went back to wearing their old uniforms. And I think they allowed each flight attendant $150 to go have the uniform altered. But I think that was not meeting with much success either.
That brings up a question that someone had about if these uniforms were provided to the stewards or if they had to purchase their own.
Well, they had to purchase them from the airline.
Okay.
Yeah,
So they could purchase as many as they wanted to. So if
right.
you did have all those mix and match things, you could do the mix and match, but you had to pay for them yourself out of your own pay.
Well, let me say this. In talking to the retired United flight attendants who volunteer here, I've heard that for many, many years they had to purchase their own uniforms. And sometimes the hat was optional, or the coat was optional. There's a heavy coat that goes with every one of these uniforms. So, but they had to purchase them, and I don't know what the prices were like. Now, TWA, I have never asked that question. But I know they all came from the airline, whether they were free or paid for, they all came from the airline and their manufacturer.
I'm in our national office is in Georgia, so I'm on Delta all the time. And theirs is this beautiful aubergine, plummy kind of purple color, but there's also blue that goes along with that. And they also have red, which doesn't really go with the purple that well. But and I've noticed over the last 10 years since that Posen uniform has come into use that there's a lot of different iterations because the fabric of it was this kind of not natural material, and it didn't stretch very well. So they've had to kind of go back to the drawing board about some of it and make different kinds of silhouettes for the different kinds of bodies that it was supposed to be on. But they are in their 100th anniversary this year. So if you've been on a Delta flight this summer, they always do these funny airline instruction videos. And this summer they started back in 1923 with the pilot's uniform and are showing you all the uniforms through the last 100 years. It's a great video.
Oh, well,
and so I usually tune that out, but I've watched it every time I've been on a plane this summer.
It's not the only airline to have done that. Qantas did the same thing, and you saw the men with the handlebar mustaches and things like that, and British Airways also did something like that with the pilots through the generations.
Right. So now, I don't think this one was ever worn. Do tell, please. Tell us about this one.
Now we're done with the TWA uniform, so I thought I would throw in a couple of very different things that we have here. So this one was done. Brookhurst is a company that has made many of the United Airlines uniforms. So this uniform of the future was designed by Brookhurst for let me see, it was the finale for a fashion show staged by Clipped Wings, which is the United Airlines retired flight attendant group. So this uniform was designed in 1992, and it was their take of what uniforms would look like in 2095 on commercial space flights. So it's unisex with just different size variations, and so we just have the jumpsuit and the cape over it. And we even have the original designs from Brookhurst over here on the right.
So it looks like in that original design that that you could pop that collar up on that cape. Could it stand up? Is that what that in the right one was? It looks like it's standing up a little bit. And if that's not in the design, it should be. Yeah, it looks like it
Oh,
looks
yes,
like
the collar is,
collar.
yes, the collar is up, but since we don't have a head on that mannequin, I don't think there is a way to do that. Very, very good catch. I had not noticed that.
Love it. Our CSA president and I got to come a little bit during the day for Angels, and we hung out right here for quite a long time checking this one out.
So in 70 years, this will be the uniform. So we still have
right. Mark your words.
Yes. So I have a few more things that were just a little bit different ones. What I have here on the left was from PSA, which this uniform was worn from 1966 until 1970. And just yesterday, a retired flight attendant told me that PSA is the company who brought in the miniskirts into flight attendant uniforms. And this particular one had frilly bloomers to wear underneath because, as you mentioned, you reach up into the overhead compartments and your skirt rides up. So they had these frilly orange bloomers. And the hat is heart-shaped with a big button on top. And
wow.
See, the middle picture is from Continental Airlines from 1974, 1978. And of course, women had bright colors. Continental had a very fun color scheme during that time. It was in yellow, orange, red, and black. And it's kind of more natural for me to see women wearing red pants, but the male flight attendants wore red pants as well. And with a double-breasted coat. And you can see a little bit of the tie, which was a lot of fun because it had yellow, orange, and red, and the Continental symbols in black throughout. And the women had a blouse made of that same fabric as the tie with the same print that they wore with the red pants and the black double-breasted coat. And the last one over here on the right was from United Airlines, and this one was worn between 65 and 66. And again, another flight attendant for United who flew a lot to Hawaii. She said United routes to Hawaii were a big, big deal back then. United has the biggest collection of muumuus, and we do have a lot of them here.
You have quite a few on display. They're all so gorgeous.
Yes, they are. So, but this one is one of my favorite ones. The fabric is just nice. I love the design of the sleeves. And the collar is a lei-like collar that's detachable. It's the descriptor says it's ruffled, but it really looks a lot like orchids made of fabric.
Absolutely. And so does it snap on?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yeah. And it lets them wear some ornamentation without having the loose lei. They can't wear that because as they bend over, the long lei will swing and get into your passenger's food and all of that.
Right. You ruin your Mai Tai with an orchid in it. You can't have that.
Yeah, this one allows you to wear a lei without having it get in your way.
Genius. Absolutely genius.
Yeah, so this is just, this is probably 10% of our collection. There's so much more that I could show you and tell you.
I wanted to ask you to give a list of all of the different airlines for which you have uniforms.
Well, we have uniforms from 68 different airlines. So I don't think I could list them all now.
No, you cannot. That's a good enough answer. Just the number 68, like all of them, basically. Probably everybody who's had uniforms, you have.
Yes. We have, of course, all the major U.S. airlines, even and some very old ones that no longer exist, like Capital Airlines existed until 1950 maybe. Was absorbed into United, but we have a lot of major international ones too.
Some airlines that don't exist anymore but are newer, like Virgin America.
Right.
And some that were prototypes that were actually never worn by the flight crew. We had this uniform from Virgin America And when somebody from Virgin America says, we never wore that, that was one of the concepts. So it's like, oh, cool, that ended up here. But well, Virgin America had a really cool leather bomber jacket that the pilots had, and it had Virgin America embroidered on the back. It was very bold. Virgin America was known for being bold.
I remember their tail decorations were very loud.
They were a cool airline.
Very loud in a good way. Do they also have bags or luggage that go along with these uniforms?
Oh, yes. With some of these, some of the pictures, what you see down on the left picture here, there are some old suitcases and they have stickers on them. These are very old. We have a lot of luggage that's in storage right now.
There's one over here, the Continental one.
Yes, actually next to this male flight attendant, there is a big suitcase that, so this was last year, Continental flight attendants had an event here, and one of them came in carrying this big suitcase, and she says, this has been in my garage for 20 years. It's yours now.
So you get things walking in for donations all the time from
Yes. Everything we have in this museum is donated. Every uniform.
We don't have an acquisitions budget.
No, we do not. So everything's been donated. So here, it's hard to see, but it's got the Continental logo here. You get a little closer, maybe? Because airlines, it's black and white.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
That was called the meatball.
Oh,
because it was round. Because we have more things, but we chained everything down, so I can't show more.
So just a couple more questions from me too. Do you have pilot uniforms?
We do.
And do you have an example of when women came? Were the women's pilot uniforms different from the male pilot uniforms?
We do have at least 2 female pilot uniforms that are on display, and I don't know that we have any more in storage, but yes, we do have them.
One of them is my favorite. It's the Air France one.
Oh yes, and we have an Air France female captain.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's cool because that one was a lot of the female captain uniforms were more adaptations of the male uniforms, basically the blazer and sort of like that same kind of cut. And we talked with some of them. The first uniforms were actually men's uniforms, but they kind of like, okay, let's just adapt it to it. And then they came out with custom cuts. But the French one is really like, no, this is a woman who has a different, and it really just shows like the thought and intention. It has a little kepi, and I like it.
Very nice tailored pants and a short jacket. And actually, we can see her from where we're sitting, but.
Y'all have to come back to the museum so we can show it to you.
We do need to come back. Everybody needs to visit. And so the museum is open to the public, so you can look at your website and see what your hours are. Mm-hmm. And do you accept researchers to come into your collection too?
Yes, by appointment. Let us know, and depending on the availability of the head curator.
We can get somebody here.
Yeah. I just also want to point out that we talked about the pilot uniforms, we talked about the flight attendant uniforms. We also have the ground service handlers. Okay. And we have not as much, but we have them on a rack back there. And it's very interesting because they're really defined by function. So they have a little bit of the corporate colors, but they're really made to function in hot weather, cold weather, really cold weather, or just temperate. One of the favorite ones, that hat, is the TWA cap with the red rim and the white top, and that's a favorite. But it's pretty cool to see that. Well, I think.
So everybody involved in getting you from place to place in a plane, you have the uniforms for, plus millions of other pieces of ephemera about flight history. It's all so fascinating. Oh, thank you so much.
One more comment. The Valentino outfits for TWA, they had a blue version that was worn by gate agents.
Aha.
So the whole airline was dressed in Valentino.
In Valentino. If you can, you should.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, JC and Doris. Really, really appreciate you being with us tonight. And thank you so much for being our Angels Project this year. I know all of our angels had a fantastic time being there with you and seeing all of your fantastic uniforms and learning a lot about the aviation industry. And I hope you learned some things from us about how to take care of your collection.
Oh, we did. We now know how to proceed and how to take good care of all the other 500 uniforms that we haven't packed yet.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We've come to the end of another episode of Dress and Drinks, and thank you so much for such an excellent program. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Please be sure to follow the Costume Society of America on Facebook and Instagram so that way you can hear about our upcoming episodes of Conversations on Dress. If you enjoyed tonight's free program, please consider making a donation to CSA. Good evening, everyone.